Military tensions rise between the two Cold War powers led by the Soviet Union and the United States. Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact forces build on the border between East Germany and West Germany, and West Berlin is blockaded. A NATO attempt to break the blockade via the Helmstedt-Marienborn border results in heavy casualties. Airman First Class Billy McCoy lives in Whiteman Air Force Base near Sedalia, Missouri. He is called to alert status at the Minuteman launch site he is stationed at in Sweet Sage, Missouri, 20 miles from Kansas City. The Hendry family lives on a farm adjoining McCoy's launch site. The Dahlberg family lives on their farm 20 miles away from the Sweet Sage launch site, in Harrisonville, Missouri, 40 miles from Kansas City. The Dahlbergs' eldest daughter Denise is set to be married in 2 days to a student at the University of Kansas, and they perform their wedding dress rehearsal. The next day, the military conflict in Europe rapidly escalates. Tactical nuclear weapons are detonated by NATO to stop a Soviet Union advance into West Germany, and each side attacks naval targets in the Persian Gulf. A nuclear attack also destroys NATO headquarters. Dr. Russell Oakes, a doctor in Kansas City, Missouri, travels to Lawrence, Kansas by car to teach a class at the University of Kansas Hospital there. Pre-med University of Kansas student Stephen Klein receives a physical at the hospital, hears the news from Europe, and decides to hitchhike toward home in Joplin, Missouri. As the threat of large-scale nuclear attack grows, hoarding begins, and so does evacuation of major cities in both the Soviet Union and United States. Frequent emergency broadcast system warnings are sent over television and radio, and Kansas City begins to empty, clogging outbound freeways. Dr. Oakes is among the many stuck in the traffic jam as he drives toward Lawrence, but after hearing an EBS alert and realizing the danger to Kansas City and his family living there, decides to turn around and head home. Minutes apart, the United States launches its Minuteman missiles, and United States military personnel aboard the EC-135 Looking Glass aircraft track inbound Soviet nuclear missiles. The film deliberately leaves unclear who fired theirs first. Billy McCoy flees the site he was stationed at now that its Minuteman missile has been launched, intending to locate his wife and child. As air raid sirens go off, widespread panic grips Kansas City as most people frantically seek fallout shelters and other protection from the imminent Soviet nuclear attack. A nuclear weapon detonates near Fort Riley, Kansas. A high-altitude nuclear explosion occurs over the central United States, generating an electromagnetic pulse which disables vehicles and destroys the electrical grid. Shortly thereafter, high-yield nuclear weapons detonate over numerous locations, including downtown Kansas City, Sedalia, and Sweet Sage. The Hendry family, having initially ignored the crisis, is killed when they try to flee. McCoy takes refuge in a truck trailer, and Klein, who had hitchhiked as far as Harrisonville, finds the Dahlberg home and begs for protection in the family's basement. In the meantime, young Danny Dahlberg is flash-blinded upon looking at a nearby nuclear detonation. Dr. Oakes, who witnessed the nuclear explosion over Kansas City, walks to the hospital in Lawrence and begins treating patients. Nuclear fallout and its deadly effects are felt everywhere in the region. McCoy and Oakes, both outside immediately after the explosions, have been exposed without their knowledge to lethal doses of radiation. Denise Dahlberg, frantic after days in the family's basement shelter, runs outside, and Klein, who vows to her father that he'll bring her back, does so, but not before both have been exposed to very high doses of radiation. McCoy learns in his travels that Sedalia and many other cities have been obliterated. Food and water are in very short supply, and looting and other criminal activity leads to the imposition of martial law. Klein takes Denise and Danny to the hospital in Lawrence for treatment. McCoy also travels there, where he dies of radiation poisoning. Denise and Danny and Klein finally leave for Harrisonville and the Dahlberg farm when it becomes clear to them that they cannot be treated medically for their injuries. It is implied that Denise and Klein's conditions are terminal and they will die soon. The president addresses the nation via radio, announcing that a ceasefire has been reached with the Soviet Union, which sustained similar devastating attacks, and that relief efforts are underway, though few listening seem to care. Jim Dahlberg, returning home from a municipal meeting about agricultural techniques that may work to grow food in the new circumstances, finds squatters on the farm. He explains that it is his land, and asks them to leave, at which point one of the squatters shoots and kills him without any sign of remorse. Dr. Oakes, at last aware that he has sustained lethal exposure to radiation, returns to Kansas City on foot to see the site of his home before he dies. He finds squatters there, attempts to drive them off, and is instead offered food. Oakes collapses, weeps, and one of the squatters comforts him.